Hey gang, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on taking isolated vocal tracks. I'm doing a singing tutorial, a vocal analysis, talking about the recording process, a little backstory about the band, etc. Next up in my Queen-a-thon is Somebody to Love. Of course, the lead vocalist is Freddie Mercury. Now, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. I also have a singing course for you aspiring singers out there and you advanced singers out there and everybody in between. You can find my course right here at kentamplinvocalacademy.com. It's called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else, where you can also join my free singing forum with over 20,000 singers all talking about how to get great at singing, okay? Now, Queen is an interesting band, as you know, and I just came out, I'm not sure what order these will go out in, so it doesn't really matter, but I just came off of doing Killer Queen, and I discussed how Freddie Mercury, the lead vocalist, wanted to use a choir effect in that song. Well, it couldn't be more true for this song, Somebody to Love. In fact, this song, according to Freddie, is Freddie's all-time favorite Queen song. And when asked why, his response was because it brought up the whole concept of what is the point of life, what is the meaning of life, is there a God? Does he listen? And so forth. And he decided to write a very passionate song about it. So let's dive right in. We'll talk more about this along the way. And let's do this. Here we go.
Anybody find me somebody true?
Okay, now one can't help but notice immediately that it sounds like a choir, right? Now, of course, it's the band, basically, right? And the orchestration of the vocals are very choir-esque. Listen closely to the voicings of the choir as they go by, and Freddie's very melodramatic entrance, right? Now check it out, but listen closely to the voicings. I'm not going to talk so much about the background vocals right now. I'll go into the lead vocal first, and then when we get into the orchestration, the instrumentation, and so forth, I'll cover more of that in a minute. But check this out.
Anybody?
Did you anybody? Listen to the low vocal, like listen to the movement of the choir. Check it out.
Anybody?
Right?
Find me somebody true.
Somebody to love, right? So there's a lot of really cool, again, choir movement. And I think that's really interesting about the gospel choir he wanted to have. Here we go. Now, if you notice, I've always noticed this about Freddie, and people really, I get a lot of hate mail for this, and go ahead and hate on me, guys. I love Freddie. Freddie's amazing. But I also want to put some flesh and blood on some of this stuff, okay? If you notice, he really sings with a lot of imperfection. Now, that's cool. Like, I don't know that he necessarily tried to be absolutely perfect. He wanted to really hammer home and sell the concept of the song, the melodic value of the song, the orchestration, particularly, especially in this case, the story, always the story. But listen to his trail offs on some of his vocals. They're just not that accurate. Check it out. So, right? It's kind of funky. It's not real perfect like that. Not saying I'm perfect, but you know what I'm saying, right? Right? Let's continue.
Each morning I get up, I die a little. Can barely stand on my feet. Take a look in the mirror and cry, Lord, what you doing to me? I have spent all my years in believing you, but I just can't get no relief. Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love?
That kind of the trail offs, right? So, but again, what we see is an incredibly passionate guy. And his goal is just to emotively leave his, wear his heart out on his sleeve, just leaving it all in the field and just pour everything he has into the song. Now, let's remind ourselves, this is Freddie's favorite song from Queen. It wasn't Bohemian Rhapsody. It wasn't We Will Rock You, like maybe some of their bigger hits necessarily, right? It's a big hit, but not in that same context. And yet, we're getting more emotion out of this song, I think. Maybe, and then The Show Must Go On might be another one that's way up there in the emotion department. But we're certainly getting that out of Freddie here, and it's really fascinating to listen to. And he gets more emotional and more breathy and more, frenetic as he goes through it, and just really hammering home, just kind of sharing his heart with you guys.
I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end, I take home my heart and pay all on my own. I go down on my knees.
That sounded like a punch there. Oh, on my own. I go out, right? You can kind of hear like a little punch there. Listen to the lyric though, God, what are you doing to me? Look in the mirror, this and that. I'm worn out, I'm beat up. Is there a God out there? I remember, I think I've shared this before, but I saw kind of a funny meme, and it was a Jewish joke, and it said, Jehovah, I know we're the chosen few, but do you think you could choose somebody else next time, right? And you kind of get that sense with Freddie going on here as he's just kind of asking himself a lot of life questions. But let's continue. Here we go.
I take home my heart and pay all.
There's one of those plosives. Pay all on my own.
I go down on my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Lord, somebody can
you hear all those breaths? Somebody, can anybody find me? He's like, he's just really in. He's all in the song.
My eyes, Lord, somebody, can anybody find me? Somebody to love every day.
Every day, right? Now, we might laugh at that. However, is it really melodrama? Or is he really needing to take the breath? Well, he just came off this really long phrase, right? Now, I do have a version of a medley I did. I'm going to put it in the description, but I'm going to confess to you guys, I did it a while ago. And this was a long time ago. I had pneumonia when I did this. Now, I almost never get sick. In fact, the last time I can't even remember the last time I had a common cold. I do a lot of healthy things to commandeer that, to countermand that. But anyway, so... But when I did this medley, I actually had booked the studio time. It was prepaid for. I didn't want to lose the time. So I went ahead and I sang the Queen medley. So you can check out my medley. But it wouldn't be my first choice, my best foot forward of trying to, showcase them. It's good. It's not amazing. But the point I'm going to make is that I remember singing this part of this line of this song, go, whoa, that was a little harder than I remembered. And I sort of chuckled when I heard him take this breath after this. Excuse me, because I noticed that he does the same thing at the end. Check it out.
Can anybody find me? Somebody to love every day. I tried, but everybody wants to put me down.
Now, by the way, can't you get that? He wants to tell you. He's going to tell you. He's really, really intense, and he wants to tell you. Everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm going crazy. They say I got a lot of what in my brain. You're like, oh, man, I'm out of breath just listening to you, Freddie. Right? Check it out.
I tried, but everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm gone crazy. They say I got a lot of water in my brain. Oh, I got no common sense. I got nobody left to believe.
By the way, what the heck was that lick? First off, before I talk about the lick, so much emotion, so much passion, so much intensity. He wants you really to understand where he's coming from in this song. And if you listen to a lot of other Queen stuff, there are some exceptions to this where he's emotional like this. But for the most part, you know, he's kind of singing in the song, you know, I gotta be cool, relax, you know, I get it all back down to get done, right? I mean, that's kind of, you know, I know it's more of the crooner side of Freddie, but it's very intense. But this lick, I remember trying to, I had to come up with my own lick because it's kind of nonsensical. And it's interesting too because Freddie's approach to singing, though he was a virtuoso singer with his range, etc., everything else, his ability to tell stories and so on, he wasn't really a blues singer, though he did try to do some blues notes, etc. And you can hear this part, you know, that's just not his thing, but it works for him. Like I said, it's kind of like a theater singer singing the blues. Now, by the way, there are great theater singers that sing the blues. So I'm not saying there aren't, not stereotyping. I'm just saying it's more along the lines of a good singer-songwriter guy trying to sing a blues lick than a blues guy, but he steps out and he does it. Check it out.
I got nobody left to believe.
I mean, go Freddie. Here we go.
Ooh, somebody, ooh, anybody find me somebody to love. Got no feel, I got no rhythm.
By the way, I heard an interesting story about this next line you guys can relate to. I heard that on the song Careless Whisper, that, and you guys can check me out on this, but I heard George Michael was in an interview and he said that this song was very inspirational for some of the early Wham stuff. And I went, really? I kind of don't hear that. Now, I do hear it in some of the other, you know, Gotta Have Faith. You know, I've got to have faith. I've got a baby. Everybody has got a body like you, right? So I do hear this kind of thing, but I never connected this line in, oh, I'm never gonna dance again, guilty feeling, got no rhythm, though it's easy to pretend, I know I'm not a fool, and
got no feel, I got no rhythm, I just keep losing my beat.
Right? Very similar concept to what George Michaels was talking about in Careless Whisper. I think that's interesting. We all have inspiration. It's not a plagiarism, it's just an inspiration. But I do think that's very fascinating because, you know, it's very, very similar to this part of the song. And he used a lot of similar emotional things like Freddie did throughout his thing. And, you know, yeah, I could talk a lot about it, but anyway.
I'm okay, I'm alright. I ain't gonna face nor defeat. I just gotta get out of this prison cell. Someday I'm gonna be free, Lord.
Cool. Now in this part, they do a build-up. Find me somebody to love. Find me somebody to love. Find me. You know, they kind of build this really cool end. So remember me talking about, if you guys watch Killer Queen, if it's out yet, if it's not, I talk about this in Killer Queen, where they take all of these different parts and they go, you know, we need a cool ending. Or, you know, we need a cool bridge, and it's got to go left turn and just take us so far left or somewhere so cool that by the time we get back to a verse or by the time we get back to the chorus, the audience wants to hear it again, right? So they had us on these crazy journeys through their songs and whatnot. That's what made the orchestration so amazing and the composition so great. So here we go at the end, same thing.
Somebody to love, find me somebody to love, find.
Hear that?
Find me somebody.
Find me, find me, find.
Find me somebody to love, find.
Ooh, find me somebody to love. Ooh.
Find me somebody.
Ooh, can anybody?
By the way, the end of that is just somebody to somebody. There's all these like great choir stabs going on. I'm gonna fire up the instrumental part of this. I think it's on there. Anyway, and then we've got this end lick. Here we go.
Find me
By the way, you hear how he has almost no control and no command over his vibrato? It just kind of comes out when it does and it doesn't when it doesn't. And he doesn't really care that much, right? Very interesting. Check it out.
Find me somebody to.
By the way, that's somebody to. Should have been out there, but he didn't care.
Somebody to love.
Weird lick. It's a Broadway lick. It's not really a blues lick, but it works. It's cool. And there's other people that do that too. Now, it's interesting too on this. It reminds me of Etta James at Last.
Somebody to.
Come along. Right? It's got that's kind of a very similar, kind of almost Motown-y theater feel to that. And then the big ending again, like this is almost like ending number 2. They went, that first ending was cool, but I think we should do a second ending. What do you think? And they did this.
Find me somebody to love.
And then find me somebody to love.
Find me somebody to love. Find me.
Love you, dirty wabbit.
Find me. Ooh, somebody to love.
Okay, and it goes on for some of these licks and stuff. Now, I want to bring in the band because I think it's important to kind of like hear how this whole thing happened with the orchestration. So hold on, let me come in here. We'll be right here. And so why I think this is fascinating is when we hear the vocal alone, it's very naked and very raw. And so we get kind of, well, that was kind of cool. But we don't really realize how well a lot of his phrasings and his stabs that seem kind of random really aren't. How well they fit within the pocket of the music itself. So here's the music, and let's just kind of take a look at this. Here we go. Now, if you remember when I talked about Killer Queen, again, it's a very theater. Think of the stage. Blah, 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 da, 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 lady on the side playing the piano, and this guy comes walking in, the spy like, every morning I set it down. I just got, I work hard. Oh, Lord, what are you doing to me? I just don't know what you got us. Right? And so you get this kind of sensation of a guy on a stage. The show must go on, this kind of like really theatrical sort of way he's presenting his music. And you really, really, really hear that in the track.
Each morning I get out my dial, can barely stand on my feet. Take a look in the mirror and cry, Lord, what you doing to me? I have spent all my years in believing you, but I just can't get no relief. Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love?
You hear that choir exchange? Choir master comes in. This is how we do the choir. Choir accentuates some of the notes. Sometimes it doesn't. It adds a lot of energy, some stabs. You can kind of see the choir kind of doing this, right? They're going through the whole thing. I can't.
I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end, I take home my heart and play all on my own. I go down to my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Lord, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love?
Now, we got the benefit. Sorry for playing slow. I wasn't cutting in the tracks. Hey, Ken, come back. You're actually, Billy Bob, you're on TV. You shouldn't be enjoying that music. You should be paying attention. Okay, I'm back to paying attention. I was in the moment of the music so much. Sorry about that. But you notice you don't hear any of the, this is what's going on. You just hear the song. But somehow, some way, you do get the sense of the tension involved in it, right? So even though you can't meticulously hear all the little gesticulations going on, you sense it, you feel it. There's, again, tension in the singing and the way he's presenting the song and the art and the craft.
I tried, but everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm gone crazy. They say I got a lot of water in my brain. I got no common sense. I got nobody left to believe.
Now, you hear how that weird lick works in the track, but it sounds really awkward alone? His phrasing sounds kind of strange and random alone, but rhythmically, and as far as the phrasing itself fits within the track, I think that's really interesting. Anyway, gang, hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did. I'm doing a clean-a-thon, so I got a lot more of these on your way, and definitely check out my next video.